Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is our second episode of Marriage Talks with myself, Brittney, and Nate.
Hi. I'm excited to be here.
I gave him a warning this time, okay? Days warning, all right? So don't let him tell you anything different.
Uh-huh.
All right, anyway, y'all. So we are here today talking about kind of the concept of building a healthy relationship from scratch. And the basis of that is, for me growing up, I didn't really have any examples of what a healthy marriage looked like. My parents, divorced when I was young. And so again, I didn't know what a healthy marriage looked like. And so I started grabbing my examples of a healthy marriage from movies, right? TV shows, music, books, right? And I'm like, yes, this is what my marriage is going to be like. This is what I'm striving for. This type of wife I'm going to be. This is the type of husband I'm going to marry. All these like fantasy world, right? In my head. So, we get married and the honeymoon phase wears off. And it gets real.
Go ahead.
And I'm like, this
sucks. This sucks. What is going on? Why is this so hard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to say
no,
more?
go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So yeah, it's like what is actually happening in my marriage is not lining up with all the stories that I was told that was supposed to happen in my marriage, right? And again, even like I have like an uncle and an aunt and a cousin who I feel like have really good marriages. But again, I was only seeing the external, right? I wasn't seeing the behind the scenes work that they had to put in. And so once our marriage, got real, it's like, oh, okay. There's one or two options here, right? Either I made a huge mistake and this is not where I'm supposed to be. or there's a lot of work that we need to be putting in behind the scenes that we weren't aware of. Okay. So that was kind of my perspective coming into the marriage. Yeah, you want to say anything? No, you want me to keep going?
Keep going.
Right, so,
it's your floor.
So I just want to share that, speaking with other couples and doing some research that I've done is that around year 2 or 3 is like where this usually starts to happen, and it could be that you made a mistake. Okay. But it could also just be that you just got to start putting the work in. Like that's where the real work happens behind the scenes. We are two individual people who've come together and are trying to form one family, but we still have two different minds, two different thought processes, two different opinions. And even with that, we are growing. Everyone is growing and everyone is changing. So we're not even the same people that we were when we got married. So there's a lot of work that has to be put into the marriage to make it successful. Like you can't just sit there and expect it to be good. Like you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards, right? You got to put the work in to move in one direction or the other. And so I feel like, for us, that was definitely a struggle point at first because it was like, what's going on, right? But then at a certain point, I think we both are, we got to a point where we realized like, we can't just sit here and expect this honeymoon phase to last. Like, we can't just like, well, why aren't we clicking? Like, well, we got to have those deeper conversations. And I think so different things that have helped from my perspective, help our marriage to continue to grow into like a healthy marriage. And, we're still getting there. Like, again, I'm gonna put that disclaimer out there. Our marriage is not perfect. It's not happy all the time. Like we have rough patches and there are things that we have in place, that I have in place to help us keep moving forward. Right. So for me, like some of the things, like first I'm going to say, use all the resources that's out there. Okay. Don't feel like, oh, it's cliche to do this. No. Is that a marriage resource? Do it. At least try it and see if it's something that works for you. So for me, one thing that has been very helpful for me is having married Christian friends, right? So if I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm about to jump off this ledge, I'm about to be deuces bye, right? I can call a friend who will ground me back in, this is what it said, this is what is biblical, this is what a biblical marriage looks like, right? This is what the Bible says. But they'll listen to what I'm saying, they'll let me vent, they'll let me get it out, but then they'll reel me back in, right? If you call in friends who aren't married or aren't in a healthy marriage or don't believe in, Christian marriages, they might be like, yeah, you're right, you should leave. Those aren't necessarily the friends that you want to talk to about these issues. Even if you're venting, you might not want to take advice from friends who are not really on the same path that you're on. So for me, having, Christian friends that I can call and be like, yo, talk me off, right? I would say, we have read like marriage books together. We've done like the 5 love languages. I've read other marriage books on my own, like, what does it mean to be a wife? How can I be a supportive wife? How can I support my husband? Like any books like that. We've done, what's this face you making?
I didn't know you read those books. Did you learn anything?
See? You see?
This
is why I gotta call my friends.
I'm just saying. You got books. I didn't.
I have audio books.
Oh, okay.
Audio books.
Let's see where we're going.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
You're making me lose my train of thought. Do you want to talk?
The floor is yours.
Are you sure? Okay. Yeah. Therapy. Right. So I feel like, therapy is something that sometimes people are like, I don't need therapy, but you might need therapy, individual and together, right? Other things.
You said that. You told me to let her talk. I'm listening.
I'm gonna let Nate go and share his, and then if I have some more tips at the end, I'm gonna bring him up because he's distracting me. The floor is yours.
Well, I'm sorry that I distracted you because you told me to let you talk, and I just didn't mean to come off offensive. So what are we talking about?
I don't know. Whatever you want to talk about.
So visions of marriage. When you get in, I think everybody falls in love with the fairy tale of marriage, where it's like everything's supposed to be perfect. You're going to be in love. You're going to ride off into the sunset, live happily ever after, all that. And even the married couples that before you get married don't really tell you the real deal. I mean, obviously, because they're probably like, I don't want to sound negative or try to talk you out of doing something that you think, is best for you. I'm not quite sure what I thought marriage was supposed to be. But I didn't expect it to be so difficult. There's times where, before we got married, like we could have conversations without even speaking a word to each other. We'd give each other a look and the other person would understand, and it would be followed with a smile and like a nod or just some level of affirmation from the other person. And somewhere after I do, that kind of fades. And I think it's, kind of what we speak on before, is having different lifestyles going into it and different upbringings, kind of plays a part, especially when you start to live together and some of those habits or particulars start to come out. My father-in-law had a talk with me before we got married, and he said something profound. It was like, when you're dating, you get to see each other, when you want to, when you're in a good mood, when, you're in a good mood, when, you know, when you're dating, you get to see each other, when you're in a good mood, when, you know, when you're dating, you get to see each other, when you're in a good mood, when, you know, when you're dating, you get to see each other, when you're in a good mood, when, you know, when you want to, when you're in a good mood, when it fits your schedule, all those things. That when you're married, you got to see each other when you're in a good mood, when you're in a bad mood, when you don't feel like being bothered, when you got stuff on your mind, etc. and so forth. And all that other stuff funnels into the marriage, because I could come home just in a bad mood thinking about something from work, and Brittany's home all bubbly. Hello, husband. How you doing? Good to see you. And I'm like, get the fuck out my way, man. Like, move. Can I get in the door, please? And now she's mad because, she hit me with all this energy and lovey dovey, and I just wasn't in a space to reciprocate her energy. So then it's like, well, who's wrong here? Now she's upset because she didn't get the reaction from me that I wanted. And I'm upset because I'm trying to get in the door and get my clothes off and decompress from my day. A lot of those kind of like, I guess, clashing of mentalities and expectations, like those tend to grow and continue to build. Like that's kind of the crux of all the difficulties and stuff that we have. And the trick is to, try to find a way to communicate through them. And that's an ever growing process, something that we're still trying to figure out. I mean, but it changes, there's no like cookie cutter to any type of situation or problem that we have. It's, there are some like, ground bases of giving your partner the space to feel heard and understood. I try not to argue. I don't know if everybody has that approach, but I try not to argue. And so I'll tend to say less to avoid certain conflicts. But there's other people who insist on more information and like, drilling down and in this moment explain to me right now what's going on right now. And it's like, sometimes it's just a real like nuance, I'll say. Why you keep looking at me, man?
You're talking. I'm looking at you.
You got something to say?
Nope.
Huh?
No. Your floor is yours.
So anyway, it's important to give each other space to express themselves. Like, even if you don't agree with everything they say, give them a chance to get everything off their chest. My approach is to be quiet and let them speak, and I can reflect on everything later. Another thing is, being honest and looking in the mirror about the things that you contribute to the conflict or the situation. Saying like, I probably could have handled that better, or I probably shouldn't have said that, or you could be a little bit nicer. In the back of your mind, you're like, F that, man, this and that entitlement. Like, but it doesn't resolve the situation. And, end of the day, you gotta go to bed with this person. So it'd be nice to, at least let them be decompressed. Like, the worst thing that you want to portray is, you don't want your partner to feel disrespected or unheard or neglected. That's, that's a recipe for disaster. So none of that has been said to us by anybody in our like pre-marriage, any of the relationships or marriages that we've known. Even now, like, nobody's going to out air their dirty laundry, but a lot of couples don't talk to young couples about this side of it. And it's not a sign that something's wrong when you're having problems. We're all human. We're gonna have problems. I can be a different person. I could be four different people in one setting. And, that could be problematic for the way Brittany's trying to respond to me or communicate with me. So I think just keeping communication lines open and trying your best to support one another are some good keys to marital stuff. I don't have many Christian friends, but I do got some good married friends that give me some good advice. And, maybe there's a difference between men and women, but there's certain things that I could talk about that could be unrelated to marriage, but it'll put me in a good mind frame when I get home to be a better husband and father and all that stuff. So I would say your circle must be consisted of people who are, you know, admirable to you, people who you like, um, look up to in a sense, or have a sense of, you know, same values and same morals. Don't always have to be Christian folk, but it could just be somebody that you really connect with. But I think them being married or being in a seriously committed relationship is very vital. You don't really want to take marriage advice from your single friends. That don't make sense. I wouldn't ask my doctor to look at my car. Just don't work that way.
Right, right.
You got anything else to say?
Yeah, just two things.
What were you supposed to be talking about?
Building a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Building a healthy marriage from scratch, right? So I will say that, yes, Nate mentioned that no one really like sat us down and had a real conversation with us about marriage. But I do believe that if you have an older couple, or even your peers, right, and they seem to have a healthy marriage, ask them like, hey, can we sit down? Can I pick your brain? Can I ask you questions? I feel like a lot of people will be open to that, but some people just don't want to just come out and give you, just drop it all on you, right? So if you have people like in your life that are like, that could be resources, just ask them like, hey, can we go to lunch? Can we just talk about this, right? I think that that's another good tip, is to be proactive about getting the information that you need about marriage, whether you're thinking about marriage or whether you're in it and you just want to know, like, I need some advice. And then I think the last thing is definitely like dating your spouse. I think that was another thing. Like when we first got married, there was definitely like a decline in the dates that we went on. It was like, okay, we're married now, but like not really having that space. Like Nate mentioned, like sometimes he comes home and he's not in that lovey-dovey space. He's still kind of in work mode, right? But if we commit the time to going on a date and we're like, okay, this is the space that we're carving out for that lovey-doveyness, for us to connect with each other on that different level, that has made a huge difference. Because like there was a large chunk of our marriage where like we weren't dating, and we've started to like intentionally put that back into our marriage, especially as parents, and being able to just have that space away from everything. And I feel like that has really helped a lot also.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say?
No, this was great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you listening. Again, we're not perfect. Our marriage is not perfect. We're constantly growing and just trying to be better. And we just hope that something that we said helps you on your journey. If you have any questions, please just, shoot us a message. Let us know any topics you want us to cover. If we feel comfortable with it, we will try to cover it here.
You're not perfect?
All right, y'all.